Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. My friend Steve Ray describes the Holy Land as the fifth gospel, and he admits that he's not the first person to coin that term, but he certainly is one of the strongest names that has popularized it. And joining me to have a conversation about the Holy Land itself is Father Jose Maria Cabrera, pastor and vicar for clergy in the Diocese of Saginaw. He is someone who just went to the Holy Land and has returned from it. Father, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Hello, how are you doing, Marcus? Good to hear you.
I'm doing very well, thank you. I want to just begin very broadly by asking you to talk about your experience in the Holy Land, and then we can start diving into why it's an important experience of the gospel.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, I just came back from the Holy Land. We went with a small group of pilgrims, about 27 of us, including my three sisters that came all the way from Peru. It was a fantastic experience, and actually the Jerusalem Jones, Steve Reyes, was there just before we got there. So we are kind of the first groups that are coming back to the Holy Land, especially after the time of war. And so it's been a wonderful experience to visit all the places where Jesus lived, and the Bible truly comes alive, and it is indeed the fifth gospel, as they normally call it.
Now, it being the fifth gospel means that, like you said, the Bible truly comes alive. The stories in the scriptures really do have a tangible experience when you go to the Holy Land. So I want to invite you to share, Father, some of the ways in which that happened in your trip.
Absolutely. When I invite people to come to the Holy Land, I always tell them that I want to show them the land where my best friend grew up, Jesus of Nazareth. And indeed, because when we hear these stories, when we come to church, we have to imagine them. But when you go to the Holy Land, you don't have to. You're walking in there. You are walking by the waters of the Sea of Galilee, by the shores, or taking a dip in there too, or walking by the streets of Jerusalem, doing the Stations of the Cross, or being at the actual place of the death and resurrection of Christ for our salvation. You have to imagine what they were like 2,000 years ago, because now there are churches there, but in the sense that you don't have to imagine many things because you are right there. You can feel the presence of Christ in a very tangible way when you visit all these holy places.
Could you describe to us some of the places that you actually visited where you saw exactly that happen for you?
Absolutely, yes. We covered everything, so you name it, like beginning from Galilee, Caesarea Philippi, Cana, Nazareth, Mount Tabor, Capernaum. We visited all those places up north. We also visited the place of when Mary visited Elizabeth in Ein Karim. We spent a lot of time in Jerusalem for obvious reasons, for being the main city. We also went to Jericho, the Jordan River, the Dead Sea. And so we visited pretty much all the places related to the life of Jesus. One special place for me is Capernaum. Capernaum because in Capernaum you actually have the synagogue where Jesus pronounced the bread of life discourse. And so it is there where Jesus said, I am the bread of life. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood will live forever. And to have an opportunity to celebrate Mass there, for example, over the house of Peter, and to know that Jesus was there, that Jesus healed the paralytic, for example, that was brought in the stretcher when the four friends opened the roof to lower him so that Jesus could heal him. We were right there in the spot. And we pray not only for the pilgrims that are experiencing these holy sites, but we also pray for all the relatives back home, especially the sick and the elderly. They are always in our hearts. So we have visited everything related to the life of Christ, and truly the gospel comes alive.
When you went, for example, to the synagogue where Jesus gave his great bread of life discourse, what did that do for you, especially as a priest, Father, you who confect the Eucharist on the altar, knowing that that's where your Lord first taught the doctrine publicly?
Absolutely, yes, and indeed, this is recorded in the Gospel of John, chapter 6, and it is a rather lengthy discourse, and definitely the people were scandalized at that time because he was actually telling them, you gotta feed on me, you gotta gnaw on my flesh. You gotta chew me in a way, in a respectful way. I'm saying that, but in the sense that we gotta consume him, so that it is not just thoughts and prayers, but actually he becomes part of us and we become part of him. And to know that he said it right there in the spot, it's incredible. And of course, that was not the only place related to the Eucharist. There were others as well. We celebrate Mass everywhere, but of course, we were also at the place of the Last Supper, for example, and prayed for a little bit there, and then being at the place where the crucifixion of Christ, because the Mass is also a sacrifice, the sacrifice of Christ on Calvary, and so to be there at that place as well, we had a chance to celebrate Mass at the place of the resurrection, which is only a few feet away from Calvary. So truly the experience of the Mass, the body and blood, soul and divinity of Christ comes to life, and we indeed felt it.
And can you describe also, for example, when you went to Cana, John chapter 2, you've celebrated numerous marriages. What did that do for you?
That was a very special day, because when we were there at Cana, we visited the church. It's called the Wedding Church at Cana. They do have there a very large stone water jar that illustrates the miracle that Jesus performed there. But what is really cool is that at Cana, the married couples that come in our pilgrimage, they renew their wedding vows, and they get their certificates. So they're very excited about that. They stand at the altar, they hold hands, and there's a whole rite that we follow there. It is very special for them, because they are giving witness to their 20, 30, 40 years of marriage, and it is a significant moment for them. But then I come back home and I also share that with our young couples that are seeking marriage, or our couples that are celebrating significant anniversaries. And just to say that I was there at the place where Jesus actually did the miracle, the first of all the signs, according to the Gospel of John. It's indeed a great blessing.
Can you talk about, Father, the people who are on the pilgrimage with you? As their spiritual fathers, you walked with them through these different places in the Holy Land. How did you see that impact happen in their own hearts?
Absolutely, yes. I say that each group is unique. This is my 7th time going to the Holy Land. I love it so much. I will go there every year if I could. And each group is different, because each group is moved in a different way. And even if we visit the same sites, all the sites look different because of many reasons. But they all have exactly the same experience, the overwhelming presence of God. So I'm going to share with you a unique experience. So there are things that we do for everybody, and there are some things that are optional for people that want to go the extra mile. For example, one of those days is staying at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre the entire night in prayer. The Franciscans allow for small groups to do that, and you're supposed to stay in vigil, in prayer, awake all night. And so we had that opportunity so that we could be inside the tomb of Christ for a lengthy period of time rather than just a minute, like you would normally do when you have to visit the site, or spend hours in Calvary in prayer and being right there looking at the rock where Jesus Christ was crucified there. And so it was a very overwhelming experience for those pilgrims that chose that option. But then for everybody else, to celebrate Holy Mass at all the sites is very special. And there is also one thing that we do. Our tour guide, Amr, always recommends to us to get these special rosaries, and we put them at the foot of the altar of every site that we visit, so that when the pilgrims come back home, they give those rosaries to their loved ones and say, I pray for you at every Mass, at every holy site.
Father, I want to say thank you very much for joining us and having this conversation with us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
My guest has been Father Jose Maria Cabrera. He is pastor and vicar of Clergy in the Diocese of Saginaw. We've been talking about the Holy Land that Father just got back from, and how the Holy Land makes the Scriptures come alive. Stay tuned. I'm Marcus Peter.